So are you doing anything in Florida, Lynn, or just relaxing?
We've done a lot of just relaxing so far. It has been really hot in the 90s or up close to 90 with really high humidity and stuff. So we've kind of hung out here and rested and read and things like that. But it's supposed to be getting a little nicer. So we're going to go do some touristy things and at some point probably get over and see Dave Mills. He's just straight east of here about 2 hours. So we'll go see him probably at some point. So we're getting ready to venture out some.
When do you return?
Pardon?
When do you return?
Oh, end of March. We have the spot here rented for the month of March. Whether we stay the whole time, we're not sure. Steve has a cousin who lives over on the northeast of here on the Atlantic coast, and it's 3 hours from here. So it's really too much to drive over and back in one day. So we're thinking we might kind of go that way on the way home and find an RV park nearby there for a couple of days and visit and then come on home from there. So we'll be home the first few days of April, but we're not sure exactly which ones. At least that's the plan at the moment. But as you say, Chip, tell God your plans and then see what happens. So that's the plan of the moment. Haven't been to the water yet. Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. We'll see whether God decides to laugh on it or not. So that's the game plan. The kitty's turning out to be a really good traveler, though. That's
I was wondering.
Yeah, she didn't fuss about being put in her carrier every day and put in the truck, and she'd cry a little bit when we first got in the truck, but then I think the movement kind of lulled her to sleep. And she's been really good here in the RV. She likes to look out the windows, but has not equated looking out the windows with going out the door yet. So we're careful when we go out the door, but we haven't really had to worry too much about her getting out. So she's been a good traveler. I think as long as she's with us, well, she'll do all right. We had not slept with her in the same room with us until we got into the RV, though. And so we weren't sure how that was going to work. But she picks one of us to lay on or near and goes to sleep. So it's working out. Morning, John.
John.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
I done mute.
Good morning.
Somebody was asking me, John, I forget who it was. They watched our video on YouTube and they want to know who the nicely dressed man was.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, well, thanks for what's that say about the rest of us men?
There you go.
But they noticed you. So
All right. Well, I guess that's not all bad. So
Morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning, all. How are you?
Good.
Good. Good to see all of you.
There we go. Now we can see both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still speaking and sitting next to each other, so good vacation so far.
Where's your kitty?
On the floor, roaming the RV this morning. She has moments of just going crazy and bouncing off the walls.
She likes high places and has managed to discover a number of them here in the RV. So we kind of quit trying to keep her down from those, but we do try to keep her off the dining room table and the kitchen counter. But that's not always successful either.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah. She doesn't like the being squirted with a squirt bottle, and she really doesn't have to get wet. She just, when she hears it or sees it, that kind of convinces her that maybe that was not what she was thinking about, wasn't a good plan. So she changes her mind briefly.
Worked with most cats. I did have one cat though that he would just squint his eyes and say, I know I'm gonna get it, but it was worth it and I'll do it again.
So far, she doesn't do that.
Good morning, Dan. You don't look like you're in Iowa.
He heard you, but I don't think we can hear him.
Pretty
Morning,
green
Dan.
back there.
Yes. Can
We
you
can't
hear us?
hear you. We can't
Can
hear
you hear us,
you.
Dan?
We can't hear you. No, okay.
Good morning, Dave. You look like you have on a flannel shirt this morning.
Don't you?
Yes, I do.
We both have the long sleeve jackets on.
Well, it's a little chilly here this morning. It's all the way up to 53 now.
I'm going to go to the office and get a temperature refund check this morning. If it dips below 60 degrees, I think you get a refund, don't you?
Right.
Let me know if you can pull that off.
So
Is it-
Dave, I guess you got a lot of rain recently.
We did, day before yesterday, in about 30 minutes, we got 2 inches, just under 2 inches, barely. And then yesterday we got spits, most off and on all day. But we could use it. We were about 2 inches behind the average for this time of the year, and we made it up in a half hour. Steve, is that
Hear
the
us?
place where you?
Yes,
use
we can hear you now.
Yeah, we're at the same spot we've been probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay,
Probably going to be the last year because they now want you to stay at least 3 months.
Oh,
And since I haven't retired yet, I can't manage that yet.
And even though I have, I'm not sure I would want to. So I do like it here for the time that we're here, but I don't know that I'd want to be here that long.
probably not.
We thought we'd come park in your driveway next year.
Well, you can do that. Probably don't know what you do with your pickup truck though. You'd have to go across the street, I guess. Our driveway is about as long as your vehicle.
Yeah.
Good morning, Norma.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Now Dan and Sylvia are back. Can we hear you now?
Yep,
oh,
okay, good.
Thought maybe you'd like to see the scenery, so we turned the computer the other direction,
Very nice.
sort of right here in the orchard.
okay.
Lots of birds.
Oh,
You have parrots in the trees behind you there anywhere?
Parrots,
Yes.
I think we've seen parrots, yes. Had cockatoos, no. Toucans,
oh,
a couple times. Lots of other birds. Yeah, I sent you that picture of the fork-tailed flycatcher. The tail is about a foot long.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty.
It's raining here a little bit this morning. Tomorrow's agenda is to butcher a hog, so I'm not really up for that. Here on campus.
But the hog is not up for it either.
We haven't told him. I don't think anybody's told him.
okay.
Her. Yesterday,
Interstate,
Kevin was here for lunch. He had been visiting the staff in Belize City, and he and Oscar came for lunch yesterday.
Oh, wow.
stayed for about 5 hours.
Okay.
Well, you two have an interstate rivalry this afternoon in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Purdue versus Iowa for the Big Ten championship.
Oh. And they're playing out in Indianapolis?
Yeah, they play at 3:30 in Indianapolis.
It's only 7:15 today here. This time doesn't change.
Oh, okay.
So you're 2 hours different than we are then. Wow.
Iowa won on a last-minute prayer shot. Guy Bohannon shot up a three-pointer and banked it in. Left no time for Indiana to score. So that's how they advanced.
Morning, Christy.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Hi, Dan, Chris. Hi, Dale.
Morning, Dale.
Are things in Iowa? Is it still snowy?
Can't hear you, Dale.
Can't hear you. Just say you're mute.
Not up yet.
Oh.
So, Brent, have you been getting the mail at the church? Hopefully.
I did last week. I need to go get it today for this week. This week has just been
Been
a
busy.
little
yeah.
discombobulated.
Yep.
So frankly, I just forgot until this morning and I thought, oh, I need to go get the mail. Last time there was only 2 pieces. So
Right. Yeah, there's about 1 week out of the month we get quite a bit of mail. Otherwise, not much.
Good morning, Nancy.
Order is she not doing this? She was getting ready to jump. She's been up there twice already. Well, I know.
watch what you're whispering, Steve. We can hear you.
Sylvia, when you talked about butchering a hog, it reminded me that one of the few times that my parents disagreed that we knew about was my dad thought that we should see how a cow is butchered, and mom disagreed. And so when me and my siblings were probably, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, 12, we went to Uncle Glenn's house and sat up on the hay bales while they herded a cow in, and the butcher was there and shot it in the head, and they hung it up and bled it and brought it around and gutted it. And I don't know if it's bad, but that image kind of stuck with me for forever. And then when Carly was in Alaska, she sent pictures of a whale harvest and had some little kids there with their rubber suits on. And I thought, well, there we are, 50 years later, the next generation of whale harvesters are learning the process.
Dan, I wanted to ask you, what year would it have been that your parents rode on the plane to deliver some heifers to I don't know what country? Do you remember what country that was?
They did the last flight for Heifer Project to Jordan. And I believe it was in the early 80s.
Oh.
It was soon after that the Heifer Project decided it was too expensive to ship cows by air, and they changed their focus to going into countries where they were going to donate the animals and finding the best breeding stock there and paying to have them bred and then give them away. It was much more cost effective for donations than to pay for an old DC-8 to fly across the ocean.
We had a visit with some Mennonites Friday night who told the story of a airplane load of heifers who came to Belize, which would have been Honduras at the time, British Honduras. And I wondered if by chance there could have been some connection with Heifer Project and bringing some heifers here and somehow collaborative efforts with the Mennonites. Because the Mennonites and the Brethren were certainly close in Goshen. Were they
Certainly,
not?
yeah. Yes, certainly. Mom and Dad did do a trip to Honduras. They did a trip to the Dominican Republic on behalf of Heifer Project, but they didn't go with animals. They went as a work project, construction kind of stuff.
Okay.
And
Well,
they
that's-
figured out that they would go to Goodwill and they would buy the biggest old suitcases they could find and fill them full of children's clothes and take in one as their own luggage, and then just leave the clothes and the suitcases wherever they went, because that seemed to be a big need too, the children's clothes.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I was just curious about how that might be connected to what you experienced. This guy
Well, I'm
remembered
having-
the plane coming, bringing the heifers.
I'm having lunch with Mom, so I'll ask her what year that was.
Okay.
By way of announcements, we'll have Sunday school at 10:35 for those who can attend. We'll do the last Sunday of doing FCNL priorities for them. We came up with 3 last time. 2 were related, humane immigration policy and then humane enforcement of that. And then systemic things that could address systemic poverty, including making sure that the SNAP program and food programs like that continue to receive adequate funding. So we'll see if we can come up with a couple more today. Next Sunday will be monthly meeting at 10:45. So I'll send out the agenda and so forth for that. If you have reports or items for that, please send them to me. Are there joys and concerns as we center today?
It's a joy. My nephew Josh and his wife Jenny a couple of years ago signed up to be foster parents, and a young fella named Luke that they had been fostering for a couple of years, his mother finally gave up her parental rights and they've adopted Luke. And about the time they adopted Luke, they got a call and said, "Can you take another one? Can you take Skylar, who's about the same age as Luke?" So now Luke has a foster sister to deal with.
Deal with.
We appreciate all the thoughts and prayers after Mark's death. I'll talk more about that after a while, but pretty tough week for Lisa and the kids. Since Lisa technically will be homeless as of Friday. They sold their house and were preparing, they were moving into a new home. But they hadn't closed on the new home yet. So she is, and the mortgage was in Mark's name. So they are trying to figure out what to do. In joys though, I had had the great joy of being with Dan Berger and my son Tim on Friday, and we burned the prairie. And Dan always comes out with lots of toys to help burn it. And he's got this blowtorch that there was no wind. We didn't think it was going to burn very well, but his blowtorch that he had, there was just enough wind. We lit the fire break and the wind shifted and it set the whole field on fire right away. So we were done in about an hour and 10 minutes. It burned 5 acres off, and it was great fun. And the little kids next door came over to watch it, and Kaylee goes, "How'd that get on fire?" She's 4, and I said, "I did it." She goes, "Grandma's going to be so mad at you." Well, let's go into silence, and if you could put yourselves on mute, that would be nice. And then I'll speak out of the silence as I feel led. Oh, God of life and Lord over death, we give you thanks for the joys of this life, for its friendships, love of family, for birds singing in trees and times to gather and worship. We struggle with the sorrows when our hearts are heavy and need your comfort. Be with us as we worship this morning, we pray. Amen. Well, last Saturday, it was last Friday night, late, about 11 o'clock, when we got a text about Mark falling and being in the hospital, and they didn't know what the prognosis was. And we waited up all night, basically, with my cell phone on my chest in case I dozed off to hear. And then at 5 a.m, we got a text that said, the neurologist had been in and there really wasn't any hope. And that day, Mike and Josh, our son-in-law Mike and Lexi's husband Josh, had planned to split wood, and Tim and I had planned to repair a sagging header on the deck to get it level again. And we pondered what to do, and we decided to go ahead with those tasks. And I got out all the material, and Tim showed up, and I was running the circular saw, and I thought about one of the oldest poems that I ever learned, and it stuck with me for years. It's by Robert Frost. It's not the happiest poem, but it's always stuck with me. It's called Out, Out. And some of you may know it, but it starts out, the buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard and made dust and dropped stove length sticks of wood, sweet scented stuff when the breeze drew across it. And from there, those that lifted eyes could count 5 mountain ranges, one behind the other, under the sunset, far into Vermont. And the saw snarled and rattled as it ran light or had to bear a load, and nothing happened. Day was all but done. Call it a day, I wish they might have said, to please the boy by giving him the half hour that a boy counts so much when saved from work. His sister stood beside him in her apron to tell them supper. At the word, the saw, as if to prove saws know what supper meant, leaped out at the boy's hand, or it seemed to leap. He must have given the hand. However it was, neither refused the meeting, but the hand. The boy's first outcry was a rueful laugh as he swung towards them, holding up the hand half an appeal as if to keep the light from spilling. Then the boy saw it all. Since he was old enough to know, big boy doing a man's work, though a child at heart, he saw all spoiled. Don't let him cut my hand off, the doctor, when he comes. Don't let him, sister. So, but the hand was gone already. The doctor put him in the dark of ether. He lay, puffed out his lips with his breath, and then the watcher at his pulse took fright. No one believed. They listened at his heart. Little, less, nothing, and that ended it. No more to build there. And they, since they were not the one dead, turned to their affairs. I kept thinking about that, especially the last line, as Mark's life had been severed, not by a saw, but by a trip and fall, severed from this life, transitioning, surrounded luckily by his children and their spouses, and of course, Lisa holding his hand for 2 days. But many of the rest of us, even while grieving, had turned to other affairs, even while praying. Life seems so much to be that way. I mean, I kept thinking of Mark the whole time we were repairing the deck, since he helped build it. We built that deck so that we could have the rehearsal dinner for his daughter Amanda's wedding here, and all sit out on the deck. It's quite an undertaking. And as I was thinking of that, I was also thinking of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There is a time for everything. and a season for every activity under the heavens. Time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, time to kill and a time to heal, time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, and a time to mend, a time to be silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. As we went about our affairs this week, and there were a number of them that we had, from household chores to everything else. We missed Mark and grieved for Lisa and the kids. Friday night, we went over to, quote, the new house where Lisa had a lot of her stuff, and we sat around, we took dinner, and she was trying to figure out what to do, and talked about feeling really adrift. And I thought, unexpected, that out sort of thing just leapt up and grabbed her. And her daughter, one of her daughters was there, and she looked at me and Nancy and said, I wonder why this had to happen. Did we do something wrong? We've had so much death in our family lately. Is there some lesson God is trying to teach us? And I thought, that's been a cry for generations, for thousands of years, people wondering why. I remember the story in the Bible about the blind man and somebody asking Jesus, why is he blind? What did his parents do? What sin did he commit? And the word that Jesus seemed to utter is, it's not about you. Wasn't about him. He didn't commit any sin. His parents didn't commit any sin. It's just the fortunes of this life. And it's part of living in this life. Even in some ways, Mark's death is a product of choices that were made, in the sense that he had some health issues that required him to take a blood thinner. And his levels were so high that contributed to the brain bleeds that ensued after he fell. I do think God can teach us through such things, but I don't think God, and I told our granddaughter that, I don't think God sends such things or is concerned about teaching us lessons through it, but we can learn lessons through it. There's a time for everything and a season for activity, every activity under heaven. A few weeks before all this happened, I have a friend who owns a bookstore out in Pennsylvania, and he publishes this wonderful list of really good books. And occasionally I go down that list and buy one from him. And there was one that looked really nice. It's called Every Moment Holy. It was a collection of readings and prayers. And it was leather bound, and I like that sort of thing. They had a new smaller edition. So I thought, well, I'll get that because I like to have such things sitting next to me on my desk to pick up and read. I have a book of common prayer on my desk. I have a little book by a Quaker artist called Sylvia Shaw Judson, a sculptor called The Quiet Eye that helps you look at art as a way to meditate, and has scripture lessons or quotes from famous Quakers and others next to it. And I thought this will be a welcome addition. And then it came, and it was indeed a very lovely book, but it was volume 2. And I had noticed the subtitle when I ordered it. The subtitle was Death, Grieving, and Hope. And I thought, why did I buy that book? And then this week, it became apparent that the book wasn't for me. And so on Friday night, I gave it to Lisa and had a couple of the prayers marked, notably a prayer for one who's lost a spouse. And she sat and read it, and we cried together. God is always working together for good for them that love him, the Bible says. I think even when we don't see it, even in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of loss, I have to cling to that hope. Another fellow I know who wrote in one of his books that faith is like riding on a rickety old wooden roller coaster. You're just sure it's going to fall apart any minute. And so you have to have complete trust in the operator. And we do have trust in the operator, he says. Not that it's not going to be scary, and it's not going to be hard, and it's not going to be just downright frightful and awful at times, but that at the end, we will arrive home safely. In the end, we will arrive home safely. We often read Ecclesiastes 3, and we end with that, a time for war and a time for peace, which is verse 8. But if you read a little further, there are a couple other verses right there, and I'm going to read parts of them. Verse 11 starts, God has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. And as I thought of Mark, I especially thought of that line, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. And Mark was a man who did. He crafted his own golf clubs. He rejoiced when we built the deck and how it was. He worked hard and he loved his family deeply. And that is one of the things that will endure forever in our hearts. I know that everything God does will endure forever. God has made everything beautiful in its time. Before I gave that little book to Lisa, I copied some words out and revised them a little bit of a prayer, and I'll close with this prayer. Give grace, O God of love and hope. Give grace, O God of mercy and sympathy. Give grace, O God, who knows our hurt, our shock, our grief. Give grace, O God, who grieves for us, who shelters us, who weeps with us. Give comfort to your sorrowing children and to all who find themselves dismayed. Be present, O God, in the emptiness. Be present, O God, in the silence. Be present, O God, in the aching heart. Amen. We'll now continue with a time of unprogrammed worship. Though some friends need to leave, blessings on you, and all are welcome to stay who'd like to. Well, we've come close to the end of our time. I think we'll end meeting for worship, and we can reconvene in a little while for Sunday school for those who feel led to do so. Any closing thoughts by anybody?
I really enjoyed your message, Brent. Thank you.
Message was quite meaningful to me, and I think a very healing way for Brother Dave to deal with 2 years since Jody's passing a couple days ago. It marks 2 years, and he's still having a very difficult time with that. So your words, I think, were helpful.
Yes, your words spoke to me too. Thank you very much.
Well, take care all, and hopefully we'll see some of you soon. Enjoy Belize. We're
Oh,
jealous. Even though it's a deadly sin, we are jealous, envious.
well, I could tell you all how the bugs are biting and how hot and humid it is, but it's very, very nice too. So, and we did some very interesting visits yesterday, Dan. Everybody knows Dan here. And if he walks in a store or shows up in a parking lot and someone recognizes him, they'll come say hello. And we're getting lots of invitations for dinners, and it's just delightful to see how people light up when he comes around. Yesterday we visited stopped by in a little humble shack to visit an 18-year-old girl that they've known since she was about 7, when Dan's son Doug helped build the house that they're in. And she's a beautiful, beautiful lady, a very petite little lady. Originally, family was from Guatemala. And I think his sister supports her somehow in her schooling, and just checked on her. And then we went from there to a house up a story where a couple in their 80s from Switzerland. How he knows these people is just this coincidental ways he knows these people, but they were missionaries in West Africa for about 20 years in their younger days, and what a delightful visit we had with them. So every minute, I never know when we're getting in the truck. It's a good thing we're in 4x4 because we needs it sometimes. Where we're going to end up, because oh yeah, let's stop here. So it's all about relationships to Dan wherever he goes. So it's great.
Well, continue blessings on your trip and your mission there.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.